Hi everyone. Today we will be talking about status management in SAP, and we will be looking at the techno-functional aspects of it, which means whenever you have a development or a business requirement which needs a technical consultant to do some programming, what are the things we should consider as far as status management are concerned? Now, before we delve into it, we will look into which areas this status management is applicable. It was existing in SAP ECC and it is also existing in SAP S4 HANA. And as far as modules are concerned, it is applicable in all modules where the order status is managed. So in this case, we can have SD, PP, MM, CS, CO, PS, all these modules wherever status management is applicable, this will come into picture. Now, as far as developments are concerned, you have reports, enhancements, and workflows. And also interfaces. Now, when I talk about interfaces, it can be a traditional interface wherein you are uploading a data from a file, or it can be a ALE IDOC scenario, and the latest type of interfaces are OData interface or some web service interface if you are using it, and within that if you have to do some operations which related to status of order, it is applicable. Same is applicable in case of user interface development. If it is applicable in case of module pools, then you have this webbed pros, floor plan managers, and then now latest technology is your Fiori apps, as well as if you have your UIFI apps which are editing or accessing this order data, and if you are dealing with status management, these things will be applicable over there. Now, these are the topics which we will be covering, and when we are covering all these topics, we will also look into areas where probable development or integration test defects are possible simply because of lack of knowledge or uh, 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 incorrect business requirement or functional specification which is given to the technical consultant. Now, when I say lack of knowledge about status management, it is both the technical and functional team which should understand these certain things and then go ahead with the development. Now, let us look at first how the status is viewed on the order screen. Now, if you see over here, once you enter the order, in the order header, you will have this order status field which is available. First is the system status, which will be seen in the first line, and second is the user status in the second line. If you click on this button over here, it will take you to the details screen wherein you will be able to see two sections. One is the system status and the second is the user status. In this area, it will show you the list of all the statuses which have been active and selected for that order. Same is the case over here for the user status as well. Now, next, let us understand first what is this status all about. Now, status is the current processing status of the object. It is documented and in the database table, and it can be one or more statuses at a time. So there is a misconception sometimes amongst the technical team that there can be only one status which can be active at a time in an order. When you are dealing with integrations to other systems, many times other systems database tables which are legacy systems, they store only one status at a time, and in SAP you can have multiple statuses active at a time. So this is also one of the glitch which you need to understand as a functional consultant, that okay, the legacy system can have only one status at a time active, but in SAP there can be multiple statuses which can be active at a time. So this you need to document correctly and convey it to your integration team as well and your technical consultants as well. It informs you of a particular status has been reached, which means the order has reached the release, the order has been released, the order has been delivered, etc. It influences the number of business transactions which you can perform. Let's say certain business transactions can be only performed after the order is released, or certain business transactions can be performed only after the order is delivered, or once the order is closed, certain business transactions cannot be performed on it, etc. All this is defined in the status configuration. A status can be either active or inactive. Now, this is also one of the important aspects, that you can have an active or inactive status also. So when you are giving the functional specification, you have to mention when you are processing the order, whether you should consider only active statuses or whether you should consider both active or inactive statuses. And if this is not mentioned later on when you are doing the integration testing and when you have lots of data, that time you will have ITC defects. So this is also one of the most common areas where you have defects, primarily because the requirement is not given properly. It can also happen that you have mentioned this in your requirement, but the technical consultant has not considered this condition in their program. Now, types of statuses. There can be two types of statuses. One is system status and user status. As we saw in the screen, there were two areas. The system status is used to update the status of the order once a particular business transaction is completed, which means if the order is delivered, the status will be marked as delivered. If the order is marked for completion, it will be marked for completion, etc. Now, the system status cannot be changed by the user. It will get updated only if a particular business transaction gets updated, and this is taken care by SAP standard code itself. So tomorrow, if you get a requirement to set the status of the order, and that status is a system status, then it will not be possible. You have to perform the relevant business transaction to do it. You should not try to update the status using the status update function module if it is a system status. Next comes the user status. You can have a set of user statuses in addition to the existing statuses, system statuses. Now, what is this user status? Like, it can be a customized business requirement in your system, that in addition to these system statuses, there are certain business processes and statuses related to that which needs to be incorporated in the system. Now, this will be achieved by defining the statuses in the system, and these statuses are combined together in a status profile, and they are defined over there in the status profile. Now, as we can have multiple system statuses, we can also have multiple user statuses active at a time. Again, these user statuses can also be marked as inactive as well. So you need to understand that when you are doing some programming for user status level also, there are two things which we need to consider. You need to consider the status profile when you are fetching the user status, and you also need to consider that there can be multiple statuses active at a time. And they can be active or inactive as well. Now, we spoke about the user statuses, and we mentioned that we will need a status profile for configuring the user defined statuses. So status profile is used to define the user statuses. The order in which the statuses can be changed is defined in the status profile, and this is a purely functional area, functional work, and we are not going to discuss this in detail in this series of videos. But as a developer, you should understand that the user statuses are clubbed together in a status profile, and this statuses can be changed in a particular order, and how these can be changed, these rules are defined in the status profile. So whenever you are trying to edit any user status, you should always use a function module, because this function module takes care of all these rules. So how to use this function module we will discuss in the coming videos. Now the relationship for a given order type, there is always one status profile. So the relationship is always 1:1. As far as status profile and order type is concerned, it can be n:1, which means a given status profile can be attached to multiple order types if the business requirement is same. Now, whether we should use tables or function modules for performing these operations. Now, you should use the tables when you are processing multiple orders or you are mass processing orders, and you want to, or even if it is a single object and you are performing a status check or reading a status of the order, you should use tables because it is more performance effective. Uh, now, function modules. Function modules, let's say there is you are developing a app wherein you are having a Fiori app or might be a UI5 app, and the business requirement is that you need to show the user the or system status and the user status in the same way as what it is shown in the SAP standard screen. Then you should use the function module. Only and only if this requirement is there, then only you have to use that function module to fetch the text, which is shown on the order screen. And how it is used, we will see it in the next this thing. Secondly, if you are changing the status, which is specifically the user status, you should always and always use the function module, because as we discussed, these user statuses have a status profile attached to it, and the status profile has certain rules which define the sequence in which the statuses can be changed. So you should always use the function module in that case. Also, a commit should be followed when you're changing the status of any order using this function module, otherwise it will not work. So that also you should keep in mind. Now the next topic which we will be discussing is tables in status management.